Okay, everybody, how are you all doing today? Good to see you. I'm in my studio. It looks a little foggy, doesn't it? Wow, I wonder if I need to clean my little lens there. But I was just on a podcast with the Joe Fairless crowd. Um, what's not Bigger Pockets, but the best show ever, best podcast. We were talking about. They asked me to speak on. What is it? Physical due diligence. That's it. That was these guys are like laser focused, and they told me, like, do you want to talk about this, or this? I said, I can talk about all three. Well, we need you to talk about this. I said, okay, fine. I'll talk about this. So that was a lot of fun. That was a good call. That was with Slocum Reed. And he did a very nice job interviewing me for that. So we are all that's done. And then David Peters and I are going to be doing some podcasts on hotel conversions and really just bringing you along in the hotel conversion space as we go through all the steps to get this property that we're just acquiring right now turned and ready to rock and roll. Okay, so what's the latest? Let me bring you up to speed on what's going on in the multifamily world, because some of these things are still going on, and you gotta learn from them. I mean, that's why I'm as good as I am, because I've made so many mistakes, and you get to learn for it. So there's a story about Ken Wolf. We've talked about Ken Wolf before. Ken Wolf is one of Brad Sumrock's proteges. He was, I believe, he was an accountant before getting into multifamily. But he went crazy, went off and bought a whole lot of properties. Well, good for him. The problem is you got to run them. It just goes to show you, anybody can buy one of these, but it's the successful investor, the ones that can actually own and operate the property the right way. And I can tell you something, folks. That's the quickest way to determine whether you should invest with somebody is if they've failed before, if they've seen what it takes to run these properties the right way and the wrong way. Some of these people got into this business when it was so easy. Money was free. The numbers just made sense. Cap rates were always declining. Rents were always going up. And then you come to find out that those days don't last forever. The feds start to monkey around with the interest rates, and that free money that you had years ago is now at a price that you can't afford because you overpaid for the properties. So let's talk about Kenny Wolf, who's trying to, owned, I think, 15 apartment complexes. And now he's starting to get into office to residential conversions, which frankly, folks, we looked at and we said, no, thank you. That is a heavy lift. It doesn't make any sense. There are an awful lot of office buildings that are available for conversion, but they don't make sense from an economic standpoint. You have to really steal these properties the right way, or you're going to get yourself into trouble. Some of these office buildings, I know they're going for 30 cents in the dollar. Good for you, but that's what you're going to need to do, because think about how an office building is typically structured. The bathrooms are all centrally located near the elevator. Everybody is out, it's a big rectangular block with windows all along the outside. So try to figure out, how do you put in 800 to 1,200 square foot apartment units in those spaces and still use that central space in the middle? It's awfully hard to do. And they also talk about how you have to drill down to get to put in the piping, because remember, all those apartments you're building out by the glass windows, they need bathrooms, and there isn't the plumbing in there for it, and you've got to put it in there. As opposed to using hotels to convert, that's a much, much easier lift. So Dallas-based Wolf is facing foreclosure on his 41 Marietta Street property. It's an Atlanta office building that he had slated for residential redevelopment after he blew lofts which is a frequent collaborator of his, defaulted on a $20 million mortgage. That was reported by the Atlantic Journal Constipation. The developer, who previously focused on multifamily deals, Wolf, fielded a second foreclosure suit this month after he defaulted on the debt tied to an apartment building in the Cleveland suburbs this month. He's already lost a multifamily building at auction this year. Let me tell you something, folks. I feel badly for this guy. I've been there. I didn't lose any at auction. I worked with the bank, and we, gave the properties back during the 2008 crash. It's not a pleasant time of life for him, But you gotta understand that's the nature of this business. If you get too aggressive, this is what can happen. You and the real deal, he says. This is a quote from his spokesperson. You and the real deal know better than most that every city's real estate market and the banking finance environment are changing rapidly. This has been challenging for every company in the real estate industry, said his spokesperson. Wolf has already lost 2 office buildings to foreclosure this year, plus an apartment complex, and has been named in 6 foreclosure filings so far. That just stinks. For him, it's an opportunity for others. The syndicator, Wolf, made the ambitious jump to office to residential projects in 2020, taking on 7 projects in 3 cities over 4 years. I don't think he's completed any of them. I think you need to get 1 done before you go for 2, and 2 done before you go for 4. That might be the more prudent way to do it. Many of his conversions have not wrapped construction. The building closest to the finish line, the Bell in Cleveland, is slated to open this summer. As of late March, its leasing office was not answering calls. Let's see. So he's this is all stuff I reported on earlier about some of the properties. Let me see. The recent, but this new apartment building foreclosure in Cleveland, it's a 48-year-old property. Man, that's a tough property to own. The lender was Flagstar Bank. He defaulted on a $4 million mortgage there. Compared to his other properties, that's not much. Wolf acquired 126-unit Euclid Tower Apartments in 2019 with fellow syndicator Agostino Pintus, who's based in Akron. The property is located at 2540 Euclid Avenue. So obviously this Augusto needed a sponsor, needed a deep pocket. Kenny Wolf was the guy. Kenny Wolf signs on the dotted line. Kenny Wolf probably didn't have much to do with this deal. It's outside of his regional area, and he just went and put his name on the document, and Augusto couldn't run it. Probably because Augusto didn't have enough capital, enough dry powder in order to keep the thing going. This is the second foreclosure against that property. The mortgage company alleged that Wolf defaulted on a separate $6.5 million loan tied to the same property. The lender sued Wolf for default in January. Wolf responded on April 15th and asked the court to dismiss the claims. The suit is still pending. I wonder why he's looking to dismiss it. But Wolf is also at risk of losing the MacArthur Apartments in Oklahoma City. Listen, I happen to know about another one of his deals in Oklahoma where he's in trouble on that one too, but that one might be getting rectified. He defaulted on a $4.3 million mortgage back in November 2023. And the lender asked the court to appoint a new receiver. That's how it works, folks. If he loses it in foreclosure, just in that emergency hearing, the court can impose a receiver on that property. And I'll tell you right now, folks, when that happens, you can kiss your investment goodbye. The deed to Windsor Senior Living in Dallas returned to the lender back in February. Wolf had secured a $12.3 million mortgage for the property from Legacy Bank. He's also trying to divest of another building the old-fashioned way, which is probably he's looking to sell it. And that's also with Pintus up in Cleveland. And CBRE is just trying to broker that deal. Wolf is not the only Texas-based syndicator facing foreclosure after scooping up properties in the boom between 2019 and 2022. Boy, folks, I saw this coming. We all saw this coming. If you've been through this before, if any of you were in this business back in 2008, you saw this coming. But remember last time we were talking about Arbor, and Arbor was going through some big problems of their own. Let me see. I'm trying to remember what the heck is the name of that website, and I'm not going to remember what it is, but I'll have it ready for you next week. But there's another syndicator lender. Arbor was a big syndicator lender. Ready Capital is now the next big problem lender that is going the way of Arbor. Let's talk a little bit about them. Days after multifamily lender Arbor Realty Trust, and this is all from the Real Deal. I love the Real Deal. Tip of the cap to those folks. Arbor Realty Trust reported a surge in delinquencies and a multi-billion-dollar effort to plug those holes. Ready Capital disclosed parallel pain points with a similar origin story: multifamily syndicators. Now, in its first quarter earnings release, Ready Capital, a go-to debt source for companies like GVA and Tide Equities, two of these other companies that are having the same problems, they reported a 10% of its $6.6 billion bridge loan book was over 60 days delinquent. That's a 284% increase from the same period last year. Now, their CEO, Thomas Capassi, immediately pegged apartment properties as the problem asset in a Thursday earnings call, tying credit impairment to late cycle stress in the multifamily sector. The sponsors behind much of the troubled debt are those value-add multifamily buyers that borrowed at floating rates, failed to finish the planned renovations, and now lack the revenue to pay their loans. Those borrowers often syndicate or pool their equity from retail and institutional investors to buy the property. Same song, different dance floor, sort of. Now, Arbor in the first quarter modified nearly $2 billion in loans just to keep the blood off of its balance sheet. And the firm pushed out due dates and offered temporary rate relief if sponsors agreed to pay down principal. They would also purchase new rate caps or plump up their reserves. So in other words, the banks are saying, listen, we'll work with you, but you got to show us something. Now, many of these syndicators, they did that raise one time and they can't do it again. There are other syndicators out there that had raised so much money, they can't stop now. They've got to keep on raising just to fend off these banks. Ready Capital wants to tap the same rescue strategy that Arbor has been doing. But one problem is it doesn't have Arbor's runway, as the Real Deal reports. Both lenders have issued a niche investment product known as commercial real estate collateralized loan obligations, or CLOs, CRE-CLOs. The securities comprise pools of bridge loans, many of them made to multifamily buyers. So remember, we did those pooled products back in 2008, 2006 that caused the crash last time. Of course, Wall Street, leave it to those guys. They create a new product called commercialized lending obligations, CLOs, which are also very risky deals. But let me see. Firms such as Arbor can also modify this debt without getting a special servicer involved. You see, with the CMBS loans, you get a special servicer. Then it's out of the bank's hands. With these CLOs, Arbor can get in there and start to play around. Many of these CLOs are actively managed, meaning that the lender can pluck out those delinquent loans and drop them into performing ones to keep the bondholders happy. Ooh, remember that? Don't you remember that from the Big Short, where they would hide the bad loans into good packages, and that's what what Michael Burry in The Big Short caught on to. He says, hey, this is bad. And that's what Stephen Carell figured out as well. Firms such as Arbor can also modify debt without getting Ready Capital, though, dealt in other types of CLOs, so-called static securities, which allow issuers less flexibility in addressing problem loans. And Ready Capital said it cannot move non-performing loans out of pools until they are over 60 days delinquent, and then they need the sign-off of a third-party special servicer in order to modify them, which has created additional lag time. So Arbor is in a better situation to hide stuff than Ready Capital is. We're certainly encouraging them to make a greater sense of urgency, said the chief credit officer for one of the special servicers. Those obstacles have saddled Ready Capital with a $732 million backlog of modifications and caused 5 CLOs to breach tests designed to protect investors who buy less risky securities. Okay? They're failing. This is not going to get any better. This is just going to get worse. 6 months back, a Ready Capital CLO holding delinquent loans sponsored by GVA, one of these syndicators we talked about many times, breached an interest coverage protection test built to track if loans are pulling adequate interest. Ready Capital then paused payments to the most junior investors, more like the common stockholders, in that commercialized loan obligation in the CLO to reroute any cash flow to senior note holders, more preferred note holders. To speed modifications and reduce delinquencies, Zomer, the chief credit officer, said the firm is working to replace its special servicer with another firm. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good. So that one special servicer won't play ball. Oh, we'll just get another one. The firm could also become its own servicer, though Zosmer said it would take up to 9 months for that to happen. We're looking at other alternatives. In the meantime, the lender is looking to sell $655 million of loans, pennies on the dollar, 70% of which is in some state of delinquency. Nice work if you can get it. Clean up your books that way. Just dump it. The lender is also looking to also took a $146 million valuation allowance against those loans, signaling the dollar volume of debt it expects will not be paid back. Wow, $146 million charge down. So that is it, folks. That's what's happening. That's what's big in the news today. That's what you're learning about. If you're not a big player and you're looking for some way to get in there and take advantage of this, local lenders are having the same problem. I said this last week, BauerFinancial.com, BAUER Financial.com. Those people in my program who have access to their own CRM, our custom CRM, we've already loaded all those banks and their ratings into the system. You can start searching in your area, start dialing for dollars, ask to speak. I give you a whole script to read down in the bottom of the CRM. I'll tell you how to do it, what to say. That's going to be the best way that you can get access to these bad debts early on. Okay, Viceroy, yes. Molly Frabana, geez, that young lady is so good. Yeah, Viceroy Research. And you know what? Let me see if I can get on there right now. Viceroy Research. How does she know that? How does she know that? Let's see if Viceroy Research has done anything new with their with their Arbor discussion. Let's see, Arbor letter to no. Arbor. Oh, wow. All right, you know what? That's going to be my next talk. We're talking about some fraud with Arbor, according to Viceroy. Okay, cool. All right, everybody, that's it. That's all I got for you this week. Thursday, we got something coming up. It'll be another treat. Make sure you show up for the Thursday calls. I'm in my home studio because nothing was working at my office today. So frustrating. But I'm back, and I'll see you all later. Thanks for coming. Talk to y'all soon.